is this I'm hearing? What are these whispers? I believe they're probably just propaganda. They're probably just rumors. Ati somebody told Gashagwa, shut up. You Gashagwa, shut up. Now, whether that Karuma is true or not, whether those whispers are just rubbish or they may have an inkling of truth, one thing we know for sure, those of us who are very observant about our local political scene. And that thing which we're very What is this I'm hearing? What are these whispers I'm hearing? I don't want to believe them. Yeah, I believe they're probably just propaganda. They're probably just rumors. Ati somebody told Gashagwa, shut up. You Gashagwa, shut up. Now, whether that Karuma is true or not, whether those whispers are just rubbish or they may have an inkling of truth, one thing we know for sure, those of us who are very observant about our local political scene, and that thing which we're very sure of, which we're seeing every day, is that there is a problem. There is a problem between Rigathi Gachagua and William Samoei Ruto. Even if you observe carefully at the body language, you will know there is a problem. You know, it is true that there's nothing new under the sun, and history keeps on repeating itself. I remember not too long ago, I believe in 2015, 2016, I observed the same telltale signs in body language between the then Deputy President, William Samoei Ruto, and the then President, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. And I did a post somewhere. Oops, actually I didn't. I had retired from politics at that time. I mentioned this to a few people at the time, and they told me to my face, Chris, you're dreaming. Rubbish. Have you heard this latest speech by William Ruto, the Deputy President, praising Uhuru Kenyatta? Have you seen this clip where Ruto is talking in his usual way as the Deputy President, fully behind the Jubilee government? What are you talking about, Chris? What are you talking about? Rubbish. That wasn't too long ago. Yeah, and of course, we know how that story ended. Indeed, these people who are ridiculing me, mocking me, came back as we headed towards the 2017 general elections, and they told me, Chris, what rubbish are you talking? See, these people are going to the elections together. He's still Uhuru's running mate. They are going into the elections together. What is this body language nonsense you're talking about? Huh? Hey, I remember that. And now, fast forward to the present, I want to tell you the body language is worse this time around. Okay? We even have photographs that have appeared all over the place. And you don't even need any expertise in reading body language. You just look at Gashagwa's face and it tells you the whole story. And if you're not satisfied about that, I will remind you of some recent drama. You know, Rigathi Gachagua has been talking about shareholders in this government. There was an initial blunder. You know, you have to be very careful about what you say when you're a politician. But you see, Rigathi Gachagua, uropokwa tu, he just talks. Well, he made this blunder. His heart, he really regrets that day. But what did he do after that? He decided to recover and still insist on this shareholding thing. Yeah, but try and flower it, dress it in some certain way so that it is okay. Yeah, he gave us the impression that we misunderstood him. Well, I'm sure you've heard recently when Ruto came out and said very clearly, there is nothing like that. All Kenyans are supposed to benefit from this government, whether they voted for it, shareholders, or whether they did not vote for it, non-shareholders. I'm sure you took in that. I'm sure you know about that. So what other evidence do you need? Hmm? Niambie. What other evidence do you need? Well, on my show today, I want to focus on two hot related topics to this political development that some of us have stubbornly decided to still not believe is happening. Yeah. And those two hot topics are how is Ruto clamping down on Rigathi Gachagua? Yeah, frustrating him further. And number two, how much damage really can Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua do to the Kenya Kwanza government if it becomes too much and he gets very annoyed? How much damage can he really do? Okay. Now, as far as frustrating Rigathi Gachagua, I will be very brief because it is very obvious. You know, it is very easy to deal with a deputy president. Very easy. Okay. And we saw it with Uhuru Kenyatta. We saw it even in the days under the old constitution when we had vice presidents. All you do is that you make sure that their entry is empty, empty kabisa. In other words, you don't give them any tasks, you don't give them any assignments to do. So they're just idle, staring at the roof in their offices. Well, they're allowed during political meetings to be flower girls, to come out, welcome you, the president, somewhere, and then to give a very nice speech. Yeah. Me and the president were joined at the hip. Me and the president were still together. Whatever those rumors, those people spreading malicious rumors are saying, me and the president were still together. Tuko pamoja, stuck very tight, na super glue. Nothing can divide us. Yeah, you make those kinds of speeches. But the reality, especially for those who are close observers, is different. Now, let's tackle number two very quickly. How much damage can Rigathi Gachagua do to the Kenya Kwanza government? Now, I know people in Azimio are very interested in this one. Quite naturally. Well, I'm afraid not much damage. Sorry to burst your bubble. He can't do much damage. And that is why he has been forced by circumstances to pretend that all is well. Okay? If there was something Meja could do, he would have already blackmailed this government. So it has been reduced to a situation where he has to try his best and work on Mount Kenya unity. But already there's a problem because there's the Kamwene forum coming up very soon. fast, leading the pack, and others are joining in. Yeah, the new voice of the Mount Kenya region. And now the question is, what can Rigathi Gachagua add? What value can he add to the Kamwene Forum? What value can he add to the unity of the Mount Kenya region? Yeah, I'm afraid not much. He doesn't have any political clout to speak of. Yeah, as a politician, sad but true. So the only thing he can try to do is to sabotage his own Kenya Kwanza friends, tena chini ya maji, while supporting Mount Kenya unity. He can also try to support Azimio, are very limited. That is the truth. Because unfortunately, Rigathi Gachagua is not William Samoei Ruto. Ruto was very resourceful when the same scenario unfolded when he was Huru's deputy. Although I must quickly add, it is Ruto who created the problem. He didn't want Raila Odinga anywhere near the Jubilee government. And for very obvious political reasons, it would have interfered with his ambitions to be president in 2022. It would have frustrated, yeah, his big ambition to be president in 2022. It's as simple as that. But Rigathi Gachagua is not as resourceful, does not have a whole community behind him like William Ruto does. Yeah, so his options remain very limited. You know, the making of William Samoei Ruto as a man and a politician is a super fascinating story that has never been told. Well, until now, yeah, my audiobook, The Ruto Kenyans Will Never Know, is extremely revealing. And in case you've not yet gotten hold of it, please take advantage of our latest offer and do so today, right away. Yeah, for only $24.55 or Kenya shillings 2,455. Pop, you'll get it immediately. And then you'll be able to take in the mind-blowing information in this book, which is also in PDF format. Yeah, if you want to read it, it comes as a package. You can take in both or whichever of the two you prefer. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.
You are watching Sound Canty Talk. Watch, share, like, subscribe.
Why is Ruto so much against any effort to deal with the rising cost of living in Kenya? Why is the rising cost of living in Kenya, yeah, such a great enemy, such a dirty word in the inner circle of the Kenya Kwanza government? Why? That's a big mystery. Because if you really think about it, cost of living has brought down too many governments. Cost of living has frustrated very many political careers. There are so many examples. For example, you remember a politician called George Bush Sr.? Yeah. America had just emerged from the Iraq War. The man was very popular. but he ended up losing a presidential election. Yeah, he was an incumbent. He should have won it easily. He ended up losing that presidential election mainly because of one thing and one thing alone. He increased taxes. You heard me right? He increased taxes. Yeah. Of course, when you increase taxes, you touch on the cost of living of the voters. So let me ask the question again. Why is William Ruto paranoid about any effort to deal with the spiraling cost of living in Kenya? Isn't that political suicide? Actually, this is a real mystery. You know those mysteries which don't have an answer? It is a real mystery because it is true. Taxing Kenyans the way Ruto has taxed Kenyans is political suicide. Nobody has mentioned it yet, but it is a fact. Governments have to tax people, lakini wanakujanga bole bole, pole pole. Yeah? The way Ruto has rushed in, forcing Finance Bill 2023, mpende mspende, is political suicide. And already we can see the results very clearly in Kenya with what has happened. People have lost faith in this government. Even the staunchest supporters, people who really campaigned for Ruto to be president, yeah, are now saying, no, we made a mistake. I should never have voted for this guy. Yeah. And one would think in those circumstances, somebody can wake up and decide. Somebody can wake up one morning and decide to change direction. And so it remains a deep mystery. Of course, I know you must be aware that Azimio have threatened that they will not sign any bipartisan agreement, because the team now is in retreat to draft the report. Yeah. Azimio, and especially the leader Raila Odinga, has said in very clear language that they will sign nothing if cost of living does not feature. And it must feature convincingly. Because Kenyans are hurting. Kenyans are strained. Yeah. Already, the Kenya shilling is exchanging to the US dollar for over 150 shillings. Hey. Yani to get just one miserable dollar, you now need more than 150 Kenya shillings. Actually, minimum 153 Kenya shillings. And when Uhuru handed over power to Ruto, guess how many Kenya shillings you needed for a dollar? Only 119. Yani the Kenya shilling has been on a free fall. It has been falling down a pit, at very high speed. But the Kenya Kwanza government is not interested. Mm-mm. Give us time. Within 6 months, you will see the effects of what we have been doing. Hey. You know, when somebody is doing things to improve the situation, there should be signs. All the signs we're seeing so far are contrary. Yeah. What magic is this that will happen overnight, which will reverse the situation? Which means that this government intends to remain in power using kifua. And maybe they have a dream that when the 2027 elections come around, they will do what they did in August 2022 and they will get elected. Well, mark this video and let me tell you in clear language, that will never happen. You see, there's some basics in politics, and there's some basics in this life, and there's some basics when it comes to human nature. That one will never happen. Even if the whole of ODM defects today, including Raila Odinga himself, let's just imagine he defects and joins Ruto. Yeah, handshake but also becomes a member of UDA. They shut down ODM and they all go into UDA. I'm telling you, it will not happen. Yeah, because you can do many things. You can rig elections, but the people, the voters, the vast majority of Kenyans, you can only push them so far. But anyway, it seems that that is the thinking of the Kenya Kwanza government. It is obviously thinking that has a big error. Huh? It is a problem. It is not realistic. But that seems to be their thinking. And now we're being told fuel prices will continue to go up. Why? Because the road levy is going to be increased by Kenya shillings 5. And of course, who will pay for that one? The people who buy fuel. Yeah, owners of public transport and owners of personal vehicles. So things will politically, some analysts are expecting things to stabilize, even as prices continue to skyrocket. Hi, somebody needs to educate me. That one, I don't see. At some point, something will have to give. That should be obvious. Why is it not obvious? Very quickly before I go, in case you've not yet taken in my latest audiobook, The Root of Kenyans Will Never Know, I strongly suggest that you do. You can see details on your screens right now for only $24.55 or Kenya shillings 2,455. This amazing audiobook and also PDF ebook, it's a package, will be available to you. Yeah, and then you can take in all those amazing details, which might help you to understand what I'm saying when I say 2027, rigging will not be possible. I'm sure when you take in that information, you'll be able to get the big picture and totally understand why 2027, the usual games will not be possible, with or without the help of powerful people, and foreign nations. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.
You are watching Sound County Talk. Watch, share, like, subscribe.
Even as Kenyans continue to come to terms with the very unfortunate developments that unfolded at the Kericho Green Stadium during the Shujaa Day national celebrations on October 20th, 2023, there are some super fascinating political developments that are emerging. Controversial Senator Samson Cherargei and Women's Representative Gladys Boss-Sholay have come out and strongly criticized the cabinet secretary in charge of sports, Ababu Namwamba, over the Kericho disaster, where at least 4 people lost their lives and scores of others were injured. What Senator Cherargei is saying and what Gladys Boss-Sholay is saying is that Ababu Namwamba should take full responsibility for those Kenyans injured and those Kenyans who lost their lives. Yeah. Bila kizungu mingi, they're saying he messed up. Now, this is very interesting. And it is interesting because Cherargei and Sholay are on the same side as Ababu Namwamba. Both of them are in Kenya Kwanza. All of them are in Kenya Kwanza. All of them are in government. And being on the same side, what should have simply happened is that Cherargei should have picked up the phone and called his colleague, Bwana Namwamba, and asked him, hey, what happened at Kericho Stadium? And they should have put their heads together, very easily gotten a way forward. But that is not what happened. And therefore, political analysts, I believe, are not mistaken to read much more in this development than meets the eye. Clearly, what is happening is that Ababu Namwamba is in serious trouble. Okay? And remember, this is not the first time the sports cabinet secretary has come under attack. It isn't. There was the earlier scandal over people traveling, instead of athletes, people traveling with their girlfriends on trips where Kenya was going for serious competition abroad to bring glory to the country. Some people were traveling with their girlfriends, on tickets meant for athletes. And of course, enjoying facilities meant for athletes. You remember that scandal. Bwana Namwamba came under a lot of attack, under a lot of fierce criticism. And he seemed to have survived that. Yeah. Just managed to survive that. And now this Kericho Stadium tragedy has hit him. Maybe the question we should be asking is how long will Bwana Ababu survive with this onslaught? Actually, these latest developments remind older Kenyans of similar things which used presidency of Daniel Toroitich arap Moi. Very similar. Indeed, at one time, a whole vice president was brought down. And it all started with something very similar to what is currently unfolding against Bwana Namwamba. Okay? Let me just play you a brief clip from a past video I did that covered that in great detail. And then you can try and compare and see how similar it is to what we're witnessing currently. I'll be back. Now, in most cases, and especially in politics, confrontations is not what you want. You do not want to confront your enemies because the outcome may not, in fact, in most cases, will not be in your favor. The more desirable tactic, at least the tactic I would use if I was in some people's shoes, was to retreat. Temporarily retreat, regroup, and then come back when your enemies least expect it. Now, it is super fascinating in all past cases where a president has wanted to get rid of their deputy in Kenya. The people involved, the victims, if I can call them that, have always used the confrontation approach. They have all failed to see the huge advantages of a temporary tactical retreat. They have all responded emotionally, rather than mentally. And in politics, that is very critical. Because if you respond emotionally in politics, you're done. For starters, chances are very high that you're walking into a trap. You're doing exactly what your opponents wanted you to do. Now, let's just go back a bit very quickly into history, and see what happened. Jaramogi Ajuma Oginga Odinga resigned on 14th April 1966. And in doing so, he did exactly what his opponents, his political opponents, wanted him to do. He played right into their hands. Reason? He got very emotional about the whole issue. Okay, he had good reason to get emotional. He was the single factor, most important, significant factor, that had handed over the presidency to Jomo Kenyatta. Indeed, the British had told him that they wanted to give Kenya independence, and were prepared to work with him so that he becomes the first president of Kenya. Instead, he launched a campaign for Jomo Kenyatta to be released from detention, and then gave Jomo Kenyatta full support to become president, prime minister first and then president. So, of course, an emotional reaction is justified here. Yeah, I helped you to become president, and this is how you pay me back. Yeah, that's human. However, this is politics. It's not personal. And this is what Jaramogi failed to see. You know, it is very interesting just how smart and clever Jaramogi's opponents were. Because they knew that Jaramogi's main think tank was a man called Pio Gama Pinto, yeah, a Kenyan Gon. Pio Gama Pinto was his main advisor, a very smart guy. Now, it is very interesting that before Pio Gama Pinto was assassinated, he was actually warned, yeah, by his political opponent, a man called Tom Mboya. And Jaramogi, Oginga Odinga, was even prepared to assist him to flee the country until things cooled down. He even arranged for him to leave Nairobi, yeah, and to travel to Mombasa. And then from Mombasa, it would be easy for him to leave the country. But then another man called Joseph Murumbi, yeah, in fact, the second vice president of Kenya, came into the picture. At that time, of course, he was not vice president, he was a cabinet minister in charge of foreign affairs. Murumbi was a very close friend of Pio Gama Pinto. And so when he heard that Pio Gama Pinto had fled the city, he wanted to know why. And he was told there was a plot to kill him. So Murumbi asked, who is trying to kill Pinto? And then he was told, Jomo Kenyatta and his kitchen cabinet. And Murumbi just laughed. He said, that is impossible. I know Jomo Kenyatta very well. He could never, not in 100 years, get involved in a plan to assassinate Pio Gama Pinto. I know Jomo very well. And Murumbi said, get Pinto back to Nairobi, you guys. Get serious. I'm going to even talk to Jomo, yeah, and get this thing sorted out. Yeah, there's nothing like that. And so Pinto came back to Nairobi, yeah, and walked back straight to his assassination and death on 25th February 1965. So with Pinto out of the way, the opponents of Jaramogi Oginga Odinga knew very well that this man was going to react emotionally. And by him reacting emotionally, they were going to finish him politically. Now, there's a super fascinating aside that I cannot help sharing here. You know, in life, sons are the ones who are quickest to learn from the mistakes of their fathers. And if you look at the political moves by a man called Raila Odinga, the son of Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, you will realize that Raila does not react emotionally when it comes to politics. If he reacted emotionally when it comes to politics, the handshake would never have happened. And that is not even a good example. When NDP, Raila Odinga's NDP, merged with KANU, many people could not believe. Because Moi was responsible for a lot of suffering of Raila Odinga in detention, yeah, for political reasons. How was it possible, yeah, that somebody who had tortured you in detention, jailed you without trial for very many years, how was it possible that you could actually talk to that man again, let alone form a political union with that person? Anyway, I think I've gotten my point across. In the 80s, another vice president, Dr. Josephat Karanja, who was previously the vice chancellor of the University of Nairobi, found himself in precisely the same position William Ruto found. And again, Bwana Karanja reacted emotionally, especially when they started involving his wife. Yeah, they got very personal because Dr. Karanja's wife was a Ugandan. And somebody started implying that it was very dangerous, yeah, to have a foreigner as a wife when you're so close to the presidency. Now, in the case of Jaramogi, if he had resisted his emotions, yeah, and accepted accepted to be a vice president of Nyanza only instead of the entire country, and did what I call a tactical retreat, then he'd have confused his opponents. And I believe he would have repositioned himself, yeah, for a political counterattack later, even if it was 3 years later, 4 years later, whatever. Instead, he responded emotionally and went into political oblivion for most of his life. Now, had Josephat Karanja used those beautiful brains he had, yeah, that he had made so many contributions with, yeah, to academia, if he had applied them to his situation, yeah, and ignored his emotions, he would at the very least have survived, yeah, and build up quite a large political following for himself to actually later run for the presidency. For instance, he would have lobbied to be reassigned, yeah, maybe to another ministerial post. Indeed, that's what happened to Kibaki. Kibaki was dropped from the vice presidency and became health cabinet minister and seemed to be very comfortable. It is instructive that Mwai Kibaki later on ended up being president of Kenya. Now, I know I've played you the clip of a vice president, yeah, being forced into resignation, or rather, past vice presidents in Kenya being forced to resign. But you see, the basic principle is the same. Yeah, people want you out of a government, whether you're the deputy president or whether you're simply in the cabinet. It is the same thing. And therefore, should we expect in the coming days for a certain group of people, because we know who is targeted, mainly people who are not from the Rift Valley, if you get what I mean, should we expect the Kenya Kwanza government? Or should we expect strategic, one at a time, resignations? By the way, the same tips we have talked about of survival apply. Ay, yeah, 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 yeah. So, should we expect a resignation very soon of the sports cabinet secretary stepping down, saying enough is enough, I have had enough, I resign? And of course, such a development will not fail to come with its drama. Yeah, because I'm sure Bwana Ababu Namwamba will have a lot to tell us about how the government operates under William Ruto. Is that what we should expect? Well, let's wait and see. My epic book, The Ruto Kenyans Will Never Know, is still available. You can see details on your screens right now for only 24.55 Kenya shillings or $24.55. You'll be able to get your hands on this very sensitive book that will even enable you to predict much more clearly and decisively what is surely going to happen to Ababu Namwamba, because it has happened before. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.